Hello, everybody, and welcome back here to the Wine with Jimmy YouTube channel. Delighted to have you on board here for another series on the wines of the world for the WSET Level 4. That's the diploma. Now, on this channel, we give you all the information you need, hopefully, to give you the confidence to get through your wine examinations, such as the WSET. We post some of our content here free on YouTube, and the rest is available on my e-learning portal at www.winewithjimmy.com. If you do have any comments or questions or concerns, please do pop them in the comments section below this video. Always wonderful to hear from you. And whilst you're there, please make sure you click like and also subscribe for our weekly updates from the Wine with Jimmy team. So here we are looking at the beautiful Chateau Chambord in the Loire Valley, and we're here part of this real big multi-part series. So remember, the Loire Valley here is cut into 7 whole series, of which we are now looking at series 3. So this is on Anjou-Saumur and Touraine, and it is split into 5 parts. So this presentation is available as free content. Parts 2 through to 5 are only available on my e-learning portal. That's at www.winewithjimmy.com. There is also the world of social media you'll see at the bottom of every slide as well. If you are that way inclined, you can please get in touch with us in that way. Okay, so here is the Loire Valley. Remember, in previous presentations, we have looked over the overview, really, of the whole of the Loire Valley, how it's split up, its microclimates, etc. But in this section, I wanted to show you the large map, because now I'm going to show you the area we're just looking at here, which is the central 2 parts of most of the Loire. So this is what we call the middle Loire, and it's Anjou-Saumur on the left-hand side. So you'll see there's some rather big cities here, like Angers, Cholet, and also smaller city of Saumur. So this is the Anjou-Saumur area. And then just across the dotted line, you'll see Chinon, Tours, Amboise, Blois, and a little bit of Orléans just there on the far right-hand side. So this is the Touraine area, named so after the city of Tours. So we are going to look at those areas in separate entities, of course, but the reason why we do group them together is that we do have some similarities with things like climatic conditions and key grape varieties. So that's why we're grouping these together. You certainly wouldn't add into the mix here the Pays Nantais, which was from the more westerly area, or the Central Vineyards, because they do have different climatic conditions and differing major key grape varieties. Okay, so let's begin with looking at the percentages of the grape varieties in each of these key areas. And we're going to begin on the left-hand side, so on the far west, looking at Anjou and Saumur. So here, it may surprise you to actually hear that the major cultivated grape variety here is Cabernet Franc. So it's this larger blue wedge of the pie chart here at about 42% of the total, also the meaning of life. So 42% is Cabernet Franc, and a lot of that is utilized for rosé production, but also will be used for sparkling and, of course, for still red wines as well. Then at about a quarter of the plantation is Chenin Blanc. And Chenin Blanc is important for a lot of things like Savinière, Anjou, and also the sparkling wines of this area. Then comes in Grolieu, Cabernet Sauvignon, and then a little bit of Chardonnay, and a mixture of other varieties like Grolieu Gris, Pinot d'Aunis, Malbec, for example, as well. But really majorly here, Cabernet Franc, Chenin Blanc, and Grolieu. Grolieu, we will talk about later in this series on the other grape varieties and same with Cabernet Sauvignon as well. So Cabernet Franc, Chenin Blanc, the major two there in that order, and the same applies to this area to the easterly side of Anjou-Saumur, and this is Touraine, as you can see. Remember, around the city of Tours, with really Chinon as its border on the west-hand side, and Orléans all the way across on the east. So Cabernet Franc at about a third of plantations here, and of course, more famous here for reds. You'll find a lot of significant reds being found around Chinon, Bourgail, Saint-Nicolas-de-Bourgail, and those kind of areas. Chenin Blanc at 21%, and many say that it's the spiritual home of Chenin Blanc in Touraine, specifically around places like Vouvray, for example, and about 1 out of 5 of plantations are Chenin Blanc. It's a very important Sauvignon Blanc, around the same number. And that's important really for the Touraine AOC, plus a few of the other villages like Roilly as well as Chenonceau. So 21%. And this is not incorporating the central vineyards. That's an extra area that we're looking at later. Cabernet Sauvignon at 5%, Gamay at about 10-ish%, and a few others thrown in for good measure as well. Chardonnay at 2% to down here. But really the major ones, Cabernet Franc, Chenin Blanc, and Sauvignon Blanc. So let's talk a little bit about the climatic conditions of this middle area. So the moderating influence, of course, of the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf Stream decreases progressively as we move eastwards, as we go into Anjou-Saumur and then Touraine. It kind of loses its effect as it goes over land. In Anjou-Saumur, the maritime effect is more marked. Now, I will mention that near Cholet, down here, there is the Mauges Mountains, or hills, really, down here. So this offers some protection against the maritime effect, certainly in the areas around the southwesterly point here. But you will get an effect that comes round the top here through the city of Angers and Saumur, for example, on our map. Touraine, which of course is this area on this right-hand side, has much more of a continental climate, whereas Anjou is a bit more maritime. It has cold winters, it has warm summers, but it's not as extreme as more easterly as you go to the central vineyards. So that's what I'm showing you here with the arrows on the bottom. You have more of a marked maritime effect towards the west of this map, and then a more continental effect towards the east of this map. Now, the rainfall levels vary. There are lower rainfall levels around the southern part of Anjou-Saumur than anywhere else here. But generally speaking, it's roughly the same as we go across this whole area. You're looking normally at around 700 millimeters of rainfall across this whole map, with a few differences, but this means it's very adequate for viticulture and can be problematic, of course, and that's what we'll go into now. So the rain can fall throughout the year due to the Atlantic influence, of course. Spring rain, so we're looking at really sort of late spring, you can have an effect on the flowering and therefore fruit set. So this can, of course, be a problem with reducing yield. And then regular summer rain, when it warms up a little bit, will increase the disease pressure, which means, of course, more problems around things like mildew. And then we've got rain in late summer going into autumn. And of course, this can be problematic around harvest, things to do with botrytis bunch rot, but also things such as waterlogging and dilution of the grapes, as we know. And of course, competition against the grapes ripening. If you give too much water, the vine starts to grow, and that takes the emphasis away from the grape ripening, the berry ripening. Now, around the River Léon, so this is in Anjou, south of Angers. The River Léon empties into the Loire River. And the multiple tributaries that run into the Léon and then into the Loire help create these quite wonderful misty conditions, which help spread botrytis at the end of the growing season. As long as there's warmth after that in the afternoons, which halts the spread of botrytis, creating the benevolent form of botrytis cinerea, of course. So some of the greatest amounts of botrytis affected fruit is found here around Léon. Of course, very famous village names such as Chaume, Bonnet-Zoo, and of course, Côte de Léon, to name just a few. A little bit about the geology and then the rootstocks, and we're done for our overview section. So here you are looking at the map again. So we have those two distinctive areas, Anjou-Saumur, and then we have Touraine on the right-hand side. So there is a wide range of geology, including things like clay and limestone. Limestones are very, very much dominant soil in this area, but also flinty clays, sand, gravelly pebbles, especially the sand and gravel right next to the rivers, and then tuffeau as well, which I'm going to talk about on the next slide. There's more schist and then limestone in Anjou. So I've got a picture of some schist here for you. Schist is a metamorphic rock produced under pressure in the earth, and it fractures quite nice and easily, but it's a lovely warm soil. It absorbs heat very well, enables brilliant drainage, so mightily important here, and often produces quite powerful wines. They call it actually in Anjou-Saumur the Anjou Noir soil area, which is the areas closest towards Cholet in the kind of south and the southwest of the area. And it's typical here. It's a good soil, schist, for drainage, for heat retention. So this is mightily important in a cold and wetter area such as the Loire Valley. So schistous soils, the same soil we find in the Douro Valley, for example, in North Portugal. And then in Touraine, there is this chalky, very porous chalk called tuffeau that you see I've got a picture of here. And this is classic in places like Vouvray, for example, and Mont-Louis-sur-Loire. So this is a very well-draining soil again. You'll notice a lot of the beautiful cellars and caves are dug out of this wonderfully easy to quarry limestone, this tuffeau. And you'll notice that if it has rained, you will actually notice the water easily draining through into the cellar. You see little drips and moving down the wall, normally a day or two after the rains, as they are started to filter through quite wonderfully well. So very good drainage behind this. It also means root systems can work very deep in this area due to the quite malleable nature of the tuffeau soils. And then just a little word on rootstocks before we wrap up this presentation. So due to the quite high lime content we find in the soil and that kind of alkaline nature to it, we find rootstocks such as Fersal and Riparia Gloire de Montpellier, which I've listed down there for good measure. My pronunciation is not always at the top of its tree, so you have the words just down there. These are often very classically used here as rootstocks to help protect against issues like chlorosis, which can occur in such lime high content soils. Okay, so that really brings me to a conclusion just on the introduction, the climate and the soils. Next up, part 2 is on the key white grape variety, which is Chenin Blanc. And then part 3 will be Cabernet Franc, other varieties covered in 4, and then general winemaking techniques and grape growing as well in that section. All parts 2, 3, 4, and 5 are available only on my e-learning portal. That's www.winewithjimmy.com. Please have a look at that now. Have a look how we can help you with your studies, with things such as flashcards, map exercises, short written questions, and of course, lots of exclusive video content. The social media channels are all found at the bottom of every slide as well, if you are that way inclined. And if you do find yourself in London, in the United Kingdom, then please come and see me at one of my establishments. Come and see me for a class, a glass, or a bottle. I've been Jimmy Smith. Ciao for now.